Okay, guys, welcome to our Sunday call. We have a special guest. I met Erin in Hawaii. Is that right?
Yeah.
She is one of my dear friends, Lena, who I met through Plexus. She is Lena's sponsor. And so we hung out in Hawaii and got to spend time with her and her husband. And you will just know why she is such a treat. I know you'll fall in love with her like I have. And so, Erin, I'm not going to talk anymore, but thank you for doing this for our team.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for asking me. I was truly honored whenever you contacted me to do this because it's such a treat. I always enjoy visiting with other teams and trying to share a little bit of something that might be helpful to you guys and just some learnings from my journey along the way. So thank you so much. The thing that I thought I would talk about tonight is leadership lessons that I have learned. And this isn't just, I've been with Plexus for about 3.5, almost, it'll be 4 years in August. And these aren't just lessons that I've learned with Plexus. These are just really throughout my career. And I want to preface this by first saying that certainly isn't like, a 30-minute or 20-minute course on leadership all wrapped into one. This is just some of those things. These are things that you might find in books or things that you've probably heard along the way. And books are great. Any kind of leadership, anything that you can get your hands on is fantastic. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I've just noticed these 4 areas, if I focus on these and I do them well, then I feel like my team is being led well. And so I really try to, kind of keep these plates spinning and really keep focused on these areas. But first you might be wondering, okay, well, what background does she have that she can even come to us right now and be talking about leadership? So I'm not going to tell you my whole story. I would encourage you to watch my Diamond documentary. I think it's probably, well, of course, everybody's going to love their own Diamond documentary, but I love mine because I feel like it really tells the story of really all I went through to get to this point. So I would encourage you to watch that. But there's one little piece of it that I do want to pull out and just kind of expound on, just sort of demonstrate why I feel like that I can talk about leadership. So I spent, let me tell you first, I'm a registered dietitian. I have my master's degree in nutrition, and I worked for a pharmaceutical company as a sales rep. After about 18 months, they asked me if I would come into the headquarters and be the sales training instructor. So I would train any new rep that's hired. They went through a pretty extensive in-house training program, and so I was their instructor for that. I did that for 3 years. John and I moved to Indiana to the headquarters, and I did that for about 3 years. And the idea in that role was twofold. It was for me to be the sales training instructor, which you learn so much by doing that. But maybe as much of that or even more, the goal was to develop me to become a district manager. So it was a developmental role. And my manager, one of his obligations to me was to develop me as a leader. So there was a structured curriculum that I went through. Every leadership book you can imagine, especially the popular ones I read, I wrote a report on. I shadowed district managers that were successful so that I could watch them in action. Just a second. I got to really not only read about it, learn about it, like book knowledge, but then I actually got to watch it be put into play. And then after those 3 years in this developmental role, I did step into a management position, and I ended up doing that for another 3 or 4 years. So I was in corporate America for about 8 years total, and really had a lot of attention focused on me to develop me into a leader. I also was fortunate to have the company put me through my MBA. So I also have my MBA. So all of that to tell you, I have the book knowledge, but I also got to actually put that into play on a practical level. And I think both of those are very important. So that sort of sets the stage for what I want to share with you and these 4 things. Let me pull my notes up real quick. I believe that you have to develop as a leader. I believe if you have, honestly, even if you don't have a single soul on your team and you're just getting started, you have to begin to develop yourself as a leader, because it will impact the speed of your growth. It'll impact the quality of your growth. It's just super duper important. I think a lot of people assume that once they have people under them, that's when they need to start worrying about leadership development. But it's actually the opposite. If you'll worry about leadership development even before you have people, the next thing you know, you'll look up and you're going to have a bunch of followers, because you're the type of person that they want to follow. So it's so important. Everybody has to struggle through this. So I was blessed to have formal leadership training. And then I was blessed to get to observe others do it, and other people really pour into me. And then I was blessed to be able to actually put it in application in a day-to-day job. And I believe I struggled so much in my early career from a leadership standpoint that whenever I came into Plexus, I had climbed so many of those hurdles. I had sort of tested my limits in so many ways. And I had learned some really, really tough leadership lessons even before I came into Plexus. And so I believe that that really has allowed me to maybe progress more smoothly than someone who wasn't able to go through that. Now, all that to say, I still have so much to learn. I'm constantly pushing myself from a leadership standpoint. But I just want to tell you that whether you want to struggle now or you want to struggle when you're a senior Ruby, you have to struggle through it. You have to stretch your leadership muscle. I'm sorry, I'm coughing so much. I've not been sick, but I just had this little tickle in the back of my throat. So I think that kind of sets the stage. I just want you to take seriously the importance of the struggle and lean into it, embrace it. Embrace those little difficulties that you have with team members. Embrace business challenges that you have. Embrace whenever your points go down, because there's something in that you're going to learn, and it's going to help you to get past the next hurdle. And it's also going to help you to develop your team and help them develop as a leader. It all matters. Every struggle is so important for you to be able to lead at whatever level that you are and to get you to the next. So let's talk now about these 4 leadership lessons that I have learned. And with each point, I'm just going to give you kind of a little bit of description of what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to give you a few practical things that you can do. Because I don't want to just tell you what I've learned and not tell you how I actually implement this and how I actually, put it into play. So I'll try to do that on each one of these. So the first one, and these are just things that I've learned over time. And I want to just preface this and say I've totally screwed these up too in my 10, 15 years of being a leader or managing people. And that's how I've learned this. I've totally messed up and then realized, wow, I dropped the ball in that area, and I have to do better moving forward. So the first one is leading with the heart. People need to know that you care. In my 8 years in corporate America, I had 8 different managers during that time. Think about that for a minute. So I had 8 different personalities, 8 different types of people that I was reporting to, that I had to adapt to. That was such a gift to me because I had fantastic managers, and there's 2 in particular I think of that were a disaster. And I learned just as much from them on how not to be as I did from all of the people who were incredible. So be thankful whenever you encounter difficult people, because they really help you to know how not to treat others. So leading from the heart, make sure people know that you care about them. The people, nobody on your team reports to you. And that was a mind shift for me coming from corporate America, where I had people that reported directly to me and they answered to me. If I told them we've got to execute this strategy, do these 3 things, they did it. If they didn't, then there was going to be, some way that I would have to impact them on their annual review. It's not the way with Plexus. You've got to motivate people and inspire them. And you can't do that if they don't believe that you truly care about them. I have one manager in particular I think of that I would have walked through a brick wall for her. Whatever she asked me to do, I would have found a way to do it. And it was because I never felt like I was in trouble, even whenever I totally screwed up. She always made me feel like I had value, that I was doing a great job. She would coach me. She taught me a ton, but I never felt like I was in trouble. And that's important, I think, for inspiring people, especially people that don't report to you. So just make sure that they know how you feel about them. Care about them outside of just Plexus. Care about what's going on in their life. Check in with them. And then don't talk about other teammates negatively to any one of your level 1s, level 2s, anybody. Because if you're talking bad about someone to them, then there's a trust breakdown there, and they're going to think more than likely that you're talking bad about them to others. And so it's really important that you maintain that, and you just don't ever go down that road of even agreeing about something that they say about somebody else. It's just really important that you keep your integrity intact in that way. So on a practical level, what can you do? Check in with especially your leaders and your runners and your level 1s, the ones that are working it. Check in with them regularly. Just look on their Facebook pages, know what's going on in their lives. Jot things down in your planner if you know they've got, like for instance, Kim's daughter's getting married. Jot that down in your planner. So a few days leading up to the wedding, you can just say, hey, I'm thinking about you, excited for the wedding, can't wait to see pictures. Pray for them, let them know that you're praying for them. I love to, remind people of special times that we've shared, especially Plexus related. So at Leaders Retreat this year, the different awards, different levels of awards that I won, I drew a level 1, just like ran a contest and took a level 1 with me to those, because my husband, he stayed home with the kiddos. So there was the wine tasting thingy, the chef tasting. I took one of my level 1s. And so a couple weeks ago, I was thumbing through my pictures and I ran across the pictures of us. So I went ahead and I just sent her one of those and just said, hey, I just ran across this picture. That was such a fun night. I'm so glad we got to do that together. So just little things like that where you just show them you're thinking about them. Also, she has 2 kids that swim. So if I ever ran across a cool swimming article or fun fact or something that I think she might be interested in, I would send that, and say, hey, just saw this, thought you would, it might be helpful for your kids or whatever. Just show people that you're thinking about them on a personal level, not just Plexus. I also love to share, you have to recognize and praise people often. And I try to be very, very specific in the praise that I give. So I'm not just going to say, hey, Kim, you did a great job today. Or, hey, Kim, you're really working hard. So something real vague. I'm going to say, Kim, that post that you just put on your team page was fantastic for these reasons. 1, 2, 3. So what I'm doing, I'm praising her. I'm showing her it's specific that I actually saw something that she did well, but I'm also reinforcing a positive behavior that then hopefully and more than likely she'll duplicate that, because that's just human nature. When you're praised for something, you're going to duplicate it. That's what we always talk about with our kids, right? So I really try to be very specific in the praise that I give. And then identify where people need help and help them. Actually offer up help. And this is Plexus related or business related, but if you know that they need some help in a certain area, then help them. You're their leader. You've gone through that before. You've got something to offer them, so help them. So that's the first one, is just leading from the heart, and truly that servant leadership, truly helping them, loving them, caring about them, and remembering that this really is about the people. Plexus is. I think if we continue to keep that in the forefront, then everything else sort of falls into place. The points sort of fall into place, because these are people, and people are inspired and motivated whenever they know that somebody cares for them. The second one is wise navigation. This is something that I just really noticed over the course of my career, is there are some leaders that navigate wisely and some that don't. So what am I saying? So navigation means to steer a course through. That's the definition of navigation. So what I'm talking about here is, bumps are going to come in the road. We're going to have challenges as a team, as an organization. And how you navigate through those is huge from a leadership standpoint. Your team is going to take on your temperament. So if you are high stress, the sky is falling, oh my goodness, if you go into that downward spiral, frustration, just negative, even if you're not verbalizing it, I promise you, your team will sense it in your tone. Sometimes when you don't say anything, they know what's going on. So you just have to remain positive and stay, just remember to stay, just that your temperament is really going to impact what your team looks like. They'll take on your personality. So be really conscientious of that. So how do you steer the course through these challenges? Do you react, or do you pause, ask questions, really think about your next steps and what the best thing is, and then implement your plan? I think a lot of times we get in trouble when we react instead of taking, or when we take the information we're given at face value without challenging and asking questions and really trying to understand, wait, what's going on? Okay, your whole team is quitting. Who quit? Well, there's just one person. Okay, who's that person? Now what's going on? I think sometimes we start going in this, just this downward spiral. In reality, we needed to gather more information before we could really figure out what to do. I like this quote: people do what people see. So if they see you overreact as a leader, they're going to overreact as a leader to their team. If they see you calm and cool and collected and positive and finding the positive, looking at the bright side, that's what they're going to tend to do. If they see you bashing the company or bashing a product or bashing other people, that's what they're going to do. So just remember that people do what people see. And because you're a leader, you are in a position where people are watching you. You've got to be conscientious of that all the time. So from some practical standpoint, always ask questions first. I'm on some threads with like jewels and diamonds, and whenever an issue or a topic comes up, the first thing I want to do is just ask more questions. I want to gather more information so that I can better understand what's really going on. I don't want to jump to a lot of conclusions. You know what they say about assuming? It makes an ASS out of you and me. So don't ever assume. My ninth grade algebra teacher told me that, of all things. So don't assume, because it'll make a fool out of you and you need to gather more information. Neutralize issues as much as you can. You know, the Bible says that we should always try to live peaceably with one another. I think that's so important. Any instance that you can neutralize, it's going to benefit us all down the road. Stay above the fray. Plexus is fantastic, and I always say my favorite part of Plexus is the people. Like Kim, I mean, I just getting to meet her and now develop a friendship with her over the last 8 months or so it's such a blessing. There's so many fantastic people, positive, encouraging, just great people. But when the cost of entry is $34.95, there's also going to be a population of people that maybe don't think just like you do. And sometimes you look up one day and you find yourself in a chat group or a Facebook group with a group of people that are just complaining and things are going downward. I just really encourage you, and I encourage my team to stay above the fray. Don't get down in the weeds. Don't start commenting. Don't start complaining. Just stay above it all. If you need to remove yourself from that group, you got to stay positive. It all goes to mindset. And whenever we're being fed any kind of negative information, it's really easy to start kind of thinking, well, I don't know. And or to dive in, or if you're just frustrated that day, I had an order that didn't go through, I'm frustrated. Oh, look, I'm on this Facebook group, somebody else is mad. I'm going to start chiming in and commenting. Just don't. Just stay above that. That's not the reputation that you want as a leader. Be grateful, don't complain, help your team to do the same. If they come to you complain, they need to have a safe place to be able to talk to you and interact with you. But don't let that just continue and on and on and on. Start, once they've had the opportunity to voice their issue or their concern or their frustration, and start working with them on a solution. Tell them, I understand, I get where you're coming from. I've been frustrated like that before too, but what are we going to do about it? What can we control? Let's move forward. And then don't overreact. But the other thing, the flip side of that is don't underreact. I think sometimes if there is a real issue that needs some leadership, need you to help them navigate through it, if you're quiet for too long, that starts causing uncertainty and fear. So you want to be in front of your team, you want to help them, but it's just this fine balance of not overreacting and not underreacting. I think oftentimes we address something too quickly, and if we would have just waited maybe 6 or 8 hours, the company would have come out with a fix or some recommendation or some direction for us. So just balance that. You'll be able to tell whenever you need to go ahead and communicate something to your team, but don't overreact either. So that's the wise navigation. And then the third one is lead strategically. There are so many incredible ideas, programs, initiatives, Silver and Seven, Going Gold, do this video challenge. They're really, really good. I just want to encourage you, make sure that anything like that you do, that it fits within a plan that you have already laid out for your month or for your quarter. So I try to implement some routine consistency throughout my month. So for instance, on the 15th of every month, my team, they're going to be pretty confident that I'm going to publish a mid-month PV sort of scoreboard. Like, here are the people, here's PV, and here's the person leading the pack right now, some recognition on the 15th. They can set their clock by it. Somewhere around the 25th, I'm going to do the same thing. The first day of every month, first thing in the morning, I publish sort of a previous month, like a scorecard. Talks about what our sales were, how many people we added, any promotions that happened, my top 15 PV people, just anybody that I can recognize in those areas. And then I have usually 3 or 4 next steps, areas of focus for the coming month. And those are going to vary. The first one is always talks about IPA, because I think if you ever lose sight of doing your IPA, your income producing activity, then you're barking up the wrong tree. You've got to always be focused on that, no matter what else it is that you're doing. And then several other things. They may have to do with the time of year. If it's New Year's is coming, it might have to do with New Year's resolutions. It might have to do with spring break. It might have to do with, maybe I've identified that my team, that our retention has gone down. So we might have a special initiative this coming month that's really focused on things I think would help with retention. Whatever it might be, just have some kind of consistency in how you go about your month, because your team is watching. And what I have noticed is I've done this from the very beginning. And now my leaders that have big teams under them, they publish first day of the month, or, the first 5 days of the month, they'll do a recap of the previous month. I've just noticed that they're duplicating that habit, which I believe is a really, really good one for their teams to just know where we're going, where we've been, what the plan is. Plan out 3 months at a time. You might sit with your leaders and just talk about the coming quarter and think strategically about it. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What are those areas that we know we need to work on? How are we going to go about doing that? How are we going to keep the energy alive? If we've got convention contest, how are we going to help people get points on that? So just sit down with your leaders and come up with a strategy of the coming months. By pulling them into that planning, you don't have to do it with your leaders. I actually don't anymore. I'll pull them in if I'm trying something new. I'll get their feedback on it before I roll it out. But they have developed to the point that they truly are leaders in their own right. And so I have some fantastic leaders on my team, and that's what you want, because then it allows you to be freed up to go work with your new level ones that maybe are at that silver to gold level, where you can begin to develop them as well. So, you can pull them in, or you can just do it on your own. But what that does, if you pull them in, then it really develops them in this strategic thinking and looking at your business long term, and not getting kind of caught up in the weeds, but like, what is the big picture of what am I trying to accomplish? And then how am I going to go about doing that? So some practical tips on leading strategically: always make sure, we'll keep it simple, and then make sure that activities that you're rolling out are pointing people back to income producing activity, getting new customers and getting new ambassadors. And I hammer that home all the time. If my team does not know that that's what we're focused on, then I haven't done my job. But I promise you they do. Even my new people, they have seen it or heard it at least a couple of times since they've joined, if they've joined in the last month or so. I talk about it all the time. And honestly, it's the 5-3-1 or 3-2-1. Reach out to 5 new people, follow up with 3, and then work with 1 team member. That's what we focus on all the time. And any initiative that I can do to get them to do that, I'm gonna do it, but I'm also gonna reinforce this is what we're doing. Because if you look, our compensation plan points us back to those things. Every single convention contest, leaders retreat contest, all of those are always based upon getting new customers and getting new ambassadors. So obviously those are the areas where we get paid, and those are the things that are important to the organization. They see those as sustaining business long term. So that's where we need to be focusing. Reading books, not income producing activity. Chatting on Facebook groups, not income producing. Honestly, self-development isn't income producing per se. It's really just all about reaching out to people and following up with them. That's income producing. Make it fun. Has to be fun. I'm a big prize giver outer. I know some people aren't. Gifts is one of my spiritual gifts. My love languages is gifts and receiving gifts, and so I love to give them out. But if you don't do gifts, just make it fun. The tone of your posts on your team page, the tone has to be fun and positive and happy and exciting. Even when you're frustrated with your team, make it funny. I was doing these Monday night calls with my team probably about 2 years ago, and they were doing great the first few weeks, great attendance, and then all of a sudden I'm noticing, and we got to the point where there weren't enough people on there, and I was getting frustrated because I was bringing in these speakers that I expected to have a good turnout for. So I didn't get on to them because what was my first point? You can't make them feel like they're in trouble. Instead, what I did was I said, it was Sonia Dudley was the next speaker the next Monday. And I said, if there aren't 50 people on this call, then I'm holding Sonia hostage. Like, her recording was not going to be released. And I did a funny little picture of Sonia, like behind bars or like handcuffs or something like that. And it was like, ha ha. But the comments were like, are you serious? Are you kidding? But they got the point that we need to make this a priority and we need to be on these calls. So make it fun. So that's the third one, lead strategically. And then finally, and this is an area where I have not been as consistent throughout the years as I should be, especially when I was in corporate America. I look back on that and I'm like, what was I thinking? But with Plexus, and especially in the last year and a half or so, this has become a major priority for me. And that's just prayer. Praying for my team, praying for my business, praying for my customers, praying for my customers that I don't even have yet. So I just really, I do focus on what I can control, which is reaching out to people, following up with people, and loving on my team. But even when I do that, even within that, there's so much that I don't control. Even though I'm reaching out to all of these people, I don't control whether or not they respond back to me and decide to place an order. And I've found so much sort of peace and freedom in just praying about that and knowing that God's perfect timing is going to play out for them. And if I can just do my part, which is to reach out with them and share and follow up, then I can just relax and rest in knowing that if it's meant for them to be one of my customers or ambassadors, that the timing will work for them and God will make that happen. But if it's not, then praise the Lord, I don't have somebody on my team that's high maintenance that I have to deal with, because we all have those, right? I think a lot of times we press someone to join us. They never wanted to, and then we're just struggling along with them when they never should have been on our team in the first place. So pray about your business, but also pray about your team and let them know that you're praying for them and about what's going on in their lives. I pray very specifically about the different legs of my team. I pray for new leaders to emerge, people that I don't even know yet. Maybe every time somebody joins, I look at that name and wonder, is this going to be my next leader? And so I really do pray for those leaders to emerge. I pray for my customers, even the ones that have quit, that they'll come back and try again and be successful. Just know what's going on on your team, in their lives. Pray for them and let them know you want to pray for them and that you are. I also keep a prayer journal that I love this, and it was really fun to look over at the end of last year, because I could, like different rank ups. I would say Maria, Senior Ruby. And then once that happened, I could cross through it and I would write in all caps, praise. And so I'm just looking through all my prayer requests and all these different all caps, praise, 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 praise. So there was just so many prayers that had been answered. And that was just exciting to be able to go back and look through. So I would really encourage you to keep a journal, and you'll be really encouraged by seeing all of the prayers that are answered for you and for your team. The other thing in prayer is just sit back and listen to what God wants to teach you about your leadership. about maybe where you're not giving somebody enough grace, or maybe there's an area where you're not loving on somebody enough, or maybe you're being impatient, or maybe you're doing a really great job. Just sit back and listen and identify those areas where you can do better, that God's speaking to you. Pray about those as well. So that's a huge one. So, okay, if you're a note taker, I'm going to go back through the 4. So the first one was leading with the heart. Second one was wise navigation. Third is leading strategically. And then the fourth one is just praying for your team. So I'm going to wrap this up. Books and seminars are great. They're important, and they really do give you some fantastic information on just foundational leadership, concepts, ideas, things maybe you'd never thought of. It's really important that you invest in yourself in that way. Find leadership books, read them, and implement them. But sometimes leadership, some of the greatest leadership lessons come from actually experiencing it. And you are all in a role now where you are a leader, whether you have a team of 1 or you have a team of 10,000, you're leading. And so those challenges are going to come. And I mentioned this early on, but I just want to really encourage you to embrace the trials, embrace the challenges, because that's stretching you and it's getting you to that next level so that you can lead even more people effectively. And that's what you want. You want to continue to grow in that way. So really lean into that. I would even encourage you to search it out. Talk to people who maybe are a step or 2 ahead of you from a leadership standpoint. When you have an issue that you don't know how to deal with, get feedback. Gain understanding from people that have already gone through that. But also push yourself to where you're sort of stretching and strengthening that leadership muscle, getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that are really hard. I know for me, whenever I went into sales training, I was terrified of speaking in front of a group of people. It was not something I ever had to do. I remember speech class in college. I hated it. I mean, like redneck hives. And, but it really pushed me. I knew it's something I needed to do if I wanted to manage a group of people. And now I'm to the point, like, for instance, at Super Saturday, I spoke at the Norman one. There were 1,200 people. It was fun for me, like a little bit of nerves, you got a little nerves, but I was so excited and it was so much fun. And it's because I've done that over and over and over. So that's not an area where I have to stretch myself anymore. I'm there. I'm good. So find those things that scare you and make yourself experience them in some way. So really push yourself. Embrace the journey for yourself and encourage your team to do the same, because they're also needing to develop as leaders. So share with them this information and say, you've got to push yourself in this way. Put yourself out there. So I love this quote, and I'll just say this to wrap it up. This is from Kenneth Blanchard, and it says, the key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority. And if you focus on these 4 areas, leading with the heart, wise navigation, people trust you, they trust your temperament, leading strategically, and then praying for your team and letting them know that, then you're going to have influence over them. And influence will inspire them. It will inspire them to action. So I would really encourage you to just really evaluate how you're doing in these areas and do what you can to get better. So Kim, that is all I have.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Hey, will you read that quote one more time?
Yes, I will. It's from Kenneth Blanchard. And he said, the key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority.
I love it. Okay.
I think it's perfect for Plexus.
It is. I was writing like crazy. Pages and pages of notes. I'm sorry that you have a tickle in your throat.
What in the world? I'm sorry too. That's probably painful for you guys to listen to.
No, I'm just sorry, but I appreciate it. This was so amazing, and so many good tips. And I love your temperament anyway. You are such a great speaker. Even when you were at Leaders Retreat, I was thinking, oh my gosh, she's so calm. And I would be up there, my voice would be shaking. So
I was nervous. I'll tell you, at convention last year, whenever I was up there with Celeste and Jenny and Susan, it was like a 2-minute little bit.
Mm-hmm.
My legs, I was like a baby giraffe. My legs were like shaking all over the place. That was the one time where I'm thinking, I can't handle this. I'm about to lose my legs.
You couldn't tell at all. You did great. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just close us in prayer. And I just, again, thank you so much. This was amazing. So, okay, Lord, thank you so much for Erin. Thank you for her friendship. Thank you, Lord, for her leadership, just to step on this call and bless our team, but also, Lord, for what she has done with Plexus and just the influence that she has in this company. I thank you for godly leaders that you are raising up. Father, I pray that you would just bless her this week, bless her business, just pour an extra blessing just for her sweet spirit and what she's done for our team. Lord, we lift up our week to you. We give it to you. We ask that you would go before us as we are just influencers in the world, Lord, that we are just lifting up our team, that you would raise up some new leaders, new customers, and just bless this path, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful week. Wait, let me make sure nobody had a question. Oh, no, they said thank you.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.